It's a stadium entrance for movie and TV recommendations. Maestro, Night's resident screen critic Dan Slevin, back for the first edition of Shortcuts for 2026. Hello, Dan. What
Hello,
a
Susanna.
request.
I'm in the mood now.
Well, I'm happy to hear it. Whew, Sonia's been in touch saying, wicked, love Iron Maiden, capital letters. Just
The
saying,
good East End
Dan,
boys.
how are your holidays?
I chose that because it is an absolutely crucial piece of the soundtrack of a scene in a film that is one of the highlights of my year so far. 28 years later, The Bone Temple, and it is a song that is the climax to that film. If listeners haven't seen it, the build-up to the appearance of that song is just it is just an incredible tour de force of cinema, and Ralph Fiennes just absolutely blows the roof off the cinema. So that was why I chose it, because I should not just pick music that I love, but music that is actually related to what we're about to talk about.
Well, you're always very, I'm going to say astute with your choices. Whether it's music in this instance, which has just sent my heart rate. I think that's one of the most epic transitions I've ever had from the Lombarda to Iron Maiden. So I want to thank you for that. I don't expect that will be topped this calendar year.
Well, so it certainly won't be topped in this hour, shall we say. But that's a really good example of what people call diegetic music, which is that's a word to describe music that's heard by the characters in the film. But we also have music that's background or score, or music that's intended entirely for the audience. And I was when I was looking some examples up, I was reminded of a wonderful story about the making of The Lord of the Rings, where Sean Astin was concerned that there was a light shining on Elijah Wood as Frodo that he didn't think was going to be actually possible. So he asked the cinematographer Andrew Lesnie, where does the light come from? And Lesnie just replied, well, the same place the music does. And that was the end of that conversation. But it's there's another film that's out in cinemas at the moment that uses 80s music, similar vintage to what we've just heard, in entirely out of context way. That's Marty Supreme, about the 1950s table tennis players, played by Timothée Chalamet. And that film has an electronic soundtrack, a score, which is extremely modern. But every so often there'll be these needle drop tracks that are played, including tracks by Tears for Fears, New Order, Peter Gabriel, people like that. And that's an example of music that doesn't work. And it's not because they're not great songs, it's because their purpose is to literally explain to you what's going on. So if you've got a song called Change by Tears for Fears, you think, oh, there's going to be a change happening. Or if you've got Everybody's Got to Learn Sometime by the Corgis, you think, oh, he's about to learn something, isn't he, in this moment? And it actually drops you out of a story that had been really immersive at that point. So that, I loved Marty Supreme, lots of aspects of Marty Supreme, but every so often some music would turn up and it would just sort of drop me out. So music can work in your favour, and sometimes it can do the opposite.
I really appreciate that. Having just seen that film, I would agree. Not that my opinion matters, but that is the correlation of music and what's happening on the screen. What have you chosen for us in terms of what's
This
happening
week?
on the screen? Yeah.
So this first film is in cinemas, and this is a film called It Was Just an Accident, which is a film from Iran, and it's directed by the great Jafar Panahi. And look, you're going to have to bear with me a little bit here, because this is a film that won the Palme d'Or at Cannes last year, which was May last year. It opened the New Zealand International Film Festival in August last year, and that's when I saw it. So my memory of it is is sort of fading over time, but I'll see if I can hold on to enough of it to be able to make the kind of recommendation that I want here. It's like many of Panahi's films recently, it's been made against the wishes of the regime, in secret, without permits. He spent a lot of the recent years in prison for making films, and somehow he managed to escape from Iran to be able to take the film around to Western countries where it's been nominated for 2 Academy Awards. But he is an absolute master at being able to make films in the most difficult and challenging of circumstances, and make films that are not kind of obsessed with the circumstances of their making. Like you watch the film, you would never know that it had been so difficult and so challenging. It's kind of light on its feet in lots of ways, and it's about I guess a very pertinent issue for Iranian people, and that is a mechanic in a garage is working on a car that's been damaged, and he hears the squeak of a prosthetic leg of the driver of the car, and he recognises that sound from when he was a political prisoner, and that was the sound he heard when he was blindfolded, the sound he heard when he was being tortured. And so he naturally assumes that this person is the person who tortured him, not only him, but many of his friends as well. So he does what anybody in traumatic circumstances like that, he kidnaps the man, puts him in the back of his van, takes him to his friends, and then says, what are we going to do with him? And so there's a kind of heavy topic, but the fact that these people are not all entirely in agreement, and the fact that he's plucked some of his friends away from their wedding photographs. One of them is a wedding photographer and one of them is the bride. So there's a woman in a wedding dress being sort of carted around with this guy tied up in the back of the van, and so it's got lots of humour about it as well. But it is, I think, yet another example of Iranian cinema being able to tell in a very how might you put it, a very personal or particular sense, something bigger about the way Iranian society works and the way Iranians cope or don't cope with the circumstances that they're under. Obviously, Iran in the news at the moment, and one of the things that I wanted to say tonight was, if you've watched any Iranian cinema over the last sort of 10 to 15 years, you'll know that it's an incredibly rich and diverse country, and not everybody who lives under that regime agrees with it, and lots of the films that have come out of that out of Iran have been about the protests and have been about the oppression. But whenever something happens that, you know, whether it's a war or an attack or whatever, it's going to be the ordinary people that suffer, and if you've seen their films, you'll know that they don't deserve that.
این فشنگ رفت.
تو چرا انقدر مثل بچه ها فکر میکنی؟ چرا از این اون دنبال آتویی تو عقده‌هاتو سرشون خراب کنی؟ چرا نمیخوای بزرگ شی؟ اولی
آروم باش عزیزم، وارد بازی این نشو.
آروم باشم که چی بشه؟ که دوباره شروع کنم به قرص خوردنم و زندگیمو به گند بکشم؟ نه واقعا دیگه بسه. لابدم الان داره میگه من چرا ذوق عروسیمو ندارم. برای اینکه وقتی از زندان اومدم بیرون اون کثافت شایعه کرد که من باشون همکاری کردم. تا این بیرونم برام بشه یه زندون بزرگتر. من خواستم امروز تو اینجا باشی. تو هر چیزی که باید بدونی را ذهن همین دیوس بشنوی.
An excerpt from It Was Just an Accident. Dan, for paid streaming, who have you chosen for tonight?
Yeah, this is a rental. So this was also in the New Zealand International Film Festival last year. I didn't see it then, but it's now available on Arovision, the locally owned digital rental streaming service, and one that I heartily recommend. This is a film by Kelly Reichardt, one of my favourite filmmakers. She is responsible for films like Three Women, Wendy and Lucy, a beautiful film. She works often with Michelle Williams, and she's just one of the great, thoughtful, careful, clever character directors. There's nothing very flashy about how she moves the camera around, or it is often not. It's not sort of full of wacky moments or lots of laughs, but she has this wonderful ability to choose actors who allow her to reveal character through the script and the filmmaking. The Mastermind is set in 1970 in a small town in Massachusetts, and Josh O'Connor plays a young man. He's the father of two. He's an unemployed joiner, furniture maker, who went to art school, has a love of art, and he hatches this plan that he's going to steal 4 works of modern art from the local museum. And he enlists some ne'er-do-wells who are going to help him with that. But the plan starts to go awry from basically the first minute, when he realizes that the date he's chosen to perform this heist is teacher-only day at the school, and he has to look after his 2 kids, and that sort of sends him sort of into a bit of a tailspin. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong, and he eventually ends up on the run. And what has started as being a kind of clever little heist movie ends up being a portrait of a journey into the heart of America. He starts in Massachusetts on the East Coast, and then ends up in Cincinnati in Ohio, and surrounded by Vietnam protesters and soldiers returning from the war, and it's almost as if the outside world, he can't hold it off any longer, and he can't cope with it. It's a brilliant performance. Josh O'Connor is one of the finest actors around at the moment. You may remember, I think the first time I saw him, he was Prince Charles in the Crown back in the day. But he's one of those actors that is an unusual looking man, handsome but not classically sort of handsome, and he's getting the kind of roles that Adam Driver got about 10 years ago when he came to prominence, where he is starting to work with really interesting and unusual and diverse directors, and he's also being thrown into big sort of Hollywood blockbusters, and there's talk that he's going to be, or certainly in the frame, to be the next James Bond.
You don't look like cops.
Say, James, we've been told that you're mixed up in this robbery.
I sure don't know how you got down this road. You got the wrong idea. I'm afraid you got some bad information.
I sure do appreciate that once in a blue moon, someone I know and love is gonna come along and blow my mind.
Well, what do you say we stop talking about it for now? Because I find it kind of upsetting.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
The Mastermind. Who would you recommend watches this, Dan? Who would it appeal to?
I think that will appeal to anybody who's seen any of Kelly Reichardt's films before. You'll appreciate what she has done. It is a festival type film. There's no content in there that you particularly wouldn't want to show kids, but it is relatively slow moving, and it's not necessarily going to keep them necessarily that engaged. So and that soundtrack that you heard on the trailer is very much the soundtrack of the film itself. It is a kind of late 1960s, early 70s kind of free jazzy sound, which can be quite dominant in terms of what's going on screen, and so your tolerance for jazz might be tested somewhat if that's something that is a problem for you.
That's a good point, but it also sets a pace, doesn't it? You can feel that just listening to that trailer.
Absolutely.
Free streaming, who have you chosen?
Well, this is a really good example, I reckon, of something that is an excellent, easeful way to start the year in terms of television series. It's not too heavy duty. It's not competing to become, the most important television of the year already. But it is a great way to pass 8 hours of story. It's called Ponies, and it's on TVNZ Plus. And did you ever watch a show called The Americans, Susanna, which was about the Cold War and Russian spies embedded in the US?
I did. And I do like a good spy saga, if we could call it
I would say this is an okay spy saga, because it's much more light-hearted than The Americans, and it's kind of a reverse of that. It's set in 1977 in Moscow, and Emilia Clarke and Haley Lou Richardson play two women who are suddenly widowed when their CIA agent husbands are killed by the KGB, and they ask if they can remain in Moscow to try and find out what happened. And of course, nobody thinks that is a very good idea until they make the point that they could actually take their husbands' places, because who would ever consider them to be a person of interest, you see? So a person of interest is what the spy people call, somebody that they want to follow. A person of no interest is somebody who's got nothing to do with anything, and that's where the word ponies comes from. We've got a clip from it here. Let's have a listen.
With like a word.
Yes. Might we have a word, kind sir?
Oh my God, shut up.
Follow me.
And I have experience translating, so I can be incredibly helpful with the Russian language.
And I am very experienced in foreign service. I have been to many countries. I know people all over the world.
We have a full administrative staff in Moscow. There is no reason for us to bring more Americans into the country unless they're key to our intelligence work.
Then let us do that.
What?
Yes. Yes, let us do that. I want to make an impact, sir. And I know that I can. I have to do something important with my life.
Yeah.
I minored in political science. I have incredible references.
Yeah, and get this. Look at us. No one would ever suspect us of anything. I mean, we're women. People only look at us if they want to fuck us or marry us, and that's it. So nobody would ever think that two people like us would be spies, and you know that.
Mrs. Hasbeck, I heard you. No.
A light-hearted thriller indeed. It sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. It's and actually this is one. If we were doing the show last week and when I'd only watched sort of half of it, it would be quite a different review. I would have said, look, this is pretty light-hearted. I don't take any of the tradecraft of spycraft particularly seriously. It's lots of conversations that would normally be happening in very, very darkened rooms are happening out in the open, so that it's not terribly secret, but it gets deeper and darker and more interesting, and it ends. It's 8 episodes, 8 TV length episodes, so about 50 minutes, and the final episode ends on it has several twists which I did not see coming, and it ends on a pretty crackerjack cliffhanger as well. So but the main reason for watching it is the relationship between Emilia Clarke and Haley Lou Richardson, an odd couple of young women who I think their chemistry is palpable, and it's really nice to see them both stretching out. We were talking about music, weren't we, earlier on, and how important music is. Well, the needle drops, and these are literal needle drops because quite often they have to play vinyl records to stop the KGB from listening in on their conversation, but the 70s music is actually fantastic in this. If you're a little bit nostalgic for people like Steely Dan or Fleetwood Mac or people like that, you'll find that there's plenty of that for you as well.
Awesome. I am. Dan Slevin, thank you very much. Thank you for the first edition of Shortcuts for 2026.
My pleasure.